As I followed the maitre d' through the elegant dining room of Lististe, Chicago's only 3-star Michelin restaurant, I felt a strange mix of excitement and nerves. This wasn't just any dinner. It was meant to be a quiet celebration for me, a reward after months of hard work. My team and I had just wrapped up a huge deal for our new product line, and business had never been better. I'd chosen this upscale place to mark the occasion. Just me, a glass of champagne, and the soft hum of fine dining. But I barely made it halfway to my table before a familiar voice stopped me cold. Well, Millie Cooper, this isn't really your scene, is it? The voice was smooth, smug, and all too familiar. I froze, then slowly turned. There he was. Ethan Powell. He was lounging casually at a corner table, a glass of red wine in one hand, his other arm resting comfortably behind the chair of an elegant older woman. She was dressed head to toe in Chanel, her jewelry sparkling like she'd stepped out of a magazine. I knew instantly, she wasn't just a dinner date, she was someone powerful, someone connected. My heart skipped, but I steadied my voice. Ethan, what a surprise. He gave me a once-over, eyes scanning my outfit, a simple black dress I'd chosen for its comfort and class. His smirk widened, clearly enjoying the moment. Yeah, I bet, he said with a chuckle. Don't worry, the staff here are great at helping out first-timers, though I doubt you'll really get the menu. Remember how you used to think Olive Garden was real Italian food? The woman beside him shifted uncomfortably. Her voice was quiet but firm. Ethan, don't be rude. But he waved her off, still locked in on me. Oh, I'm just catching up with an old friend. Millie and I go way back, he added, patting the woman's hand casually. We dated in college, before I upgraded my standards. His words stung, but I refused to give him the reaction he wanted. Still, a flicker of hurt rose in my chest. It had been years since our breakup, but Ethan had a way of digging into old wounds like no one else could. Just then, the maitre d' stepped in smoothly, his voice calm and professional. Madam, your table is ready whenever you are. Ethan raised an eyebrow, amused. Dining alone? That's bold. Weren't you the girl who couldn't even order coffee unless I was there to help? I opened my mouth to respond, but he cut me off again, smirking. Let me guess, you're here to network, still working on that little food blog of yours? Look, I'll give you some free advice. Places like this, they're not for amateurs, they're for people who've made it, not for dreamers trying to play in the big leagues. His laugh was sharp, mean, the kind meant to draw blood. Vivian, if that was her name, looked downright embarrassed now. Ethan, really, that's enough. But it was too late. His words had already taken me back in time. Suddenly, I wasn't Millie Cooper, founder of a rising gourmet brand. I was 23 again, fresh out of culinary school, crying in my tiny apartment because the man I loved told me I wasn't good enough, and then walked out of my life for a woman with industry connections and a last name people recognized. The maitre d' cleared his throat and said a little louder this time, Miss Cooper, your usual table is ready, by the kitchen window. Chef Daniel said he's looking forward to hearing your feedback on the new tasting menu. I caught it then. Ethan's smirk faltered, just slightly, enough for me to see the confusion in his eyes. Your usual table? Chef Daniels wants her opinion? Before I could say anything, my phone buzzed with a message. I glanced down. Gabriel, running 10 minutes late. Order the Cru Grande for us and don't let anyone steal my wife before I get there. I smiled. It was subtle, but Ethan noticed the shift in my mood. His gaze dropped to my left hand, where a thin platinum wedding band rested. His face changed, the smugness faded, replaced by something colder, more calculating. That's when I knew. This wasn't just a chance run-in. This was the beginning of something else, something bigger. Ethan wasn't just surprised to see me, he was reassessing, recalculating, and maybe, just maybe, regretting every cruel thing he'd said 7 years ago. I turned back to the maitre d', standing a little taller now. Thank you, I said calmly, I'll wait at the table for my husband. And without looking back, I walked away, leaving Ethan Powell blinking behind me, still holding his wine and his ego. The moment Vivian said his name, I felt my stomach twist. Ethan is your executive chef for now, she said, her tone calm but a little mysterious. Is that a problem? I paused. The word problem felt like an understatement. Well, I said slowly, choosing my words with care, we do have some history, not all of it is positive. Vivian didn't look surprised. In fact, she seemed like she'd been expecting me to say that. I thought as much, she replied thoughtfully, especially after how he reacted when I mentioned your brand. Would you mind explaining a bit more? So, I did. Not everything, just the basics. I told her about how Ethan and I had once been close, both personally and professionally, how we tried to start something together after college, a business venture that fell apart, how he'd walked away when things got hard, and how that split had cost me more than I wanted to admit. When I finished, Vivian nodded slowly. This actually confirms some concerns I've had about Ethan's professional judgment, she said, but I want you to know, my interest in your product stands on its own. Whatever happened between you two, it doesn't affect the potential I see in your brand. We moved forward with the deal, and I left our meeting feeling cautious, but hopeful. This was a huge step for my business, and Vivian seemed like someone who made decisions based on results, not rumors. But that sense of optimism didn't last long. Later that night, I got a text from an unknown number. The message was short, but the tone said everything. Congratulations on your deal with Vivian. Small world, isn't it? Looking forward to working together again. We should meet to discuss menu integration. Dinner tomorrow? Ethan. There it was, his smugness, slipping through even in text. Ethan clearly thought he had the upper hand again, that just because we'd be working under the same roof, I'd have to play nice and bend to his vision. But what he didn't know, what he hadn't realized yet, was that I wasn't the same woman he'd left behind, not anymore. I agreed to meet him, not at some pretentious high-end restaurant where he could show off. I chose a small bistro downtown, somewhere casual, quiet, neutral, a place where we could talk business without the noise of egos and fine china. When I arrived, Ethan was already there, sitting at a table near the window. He stood as I approached, smiling that same smug smile I remembered far too well. "Millie," he said smoothly, "you're looking well." He paused on the word well, just long enough to make it sound like a subtle insult. I was wearing a simple black dress, minimal makeup, and no frills. That used to make me feel self-conscious. Now, I just let it roll off. "Thanks for meeting," I said firmly, keeping my voice professional. "I think it's important we establish clear boundaries for how we'll work together." Ethan chuckled and flagged the waiter for another glass of wine. "Always so serious," he said, shaking his head. "Relax, Mill. This is a good thing for both of us. You get the prestige of being connected to a Hargrove restaurant, and I get to help out an old friend." "Help?" I raised an eyebrow. That's an interesting way to describe it, given our history. For a brief moment, his expression shifted, like he remembered, just as clearly as I did, how things had ended between us, but then he shrugged it off. "Ancient history. We've both moved on." Clearly, his eyes flicked to my wedding ring. "Who's the lucky guy?" "That's not relevant," I said smoothly. "Let's stay focused on the partnership." He nodded. "Fair enough, though I should clarify, it's my menu. I'll be the one deciding where and how your products are used." The next hour was long and frustrating. Ethan talked about the dishes he had in mind and how my sauces could be added in, usually as background flavors or base ingredients. Nothing that truly highlighted the work I'd put into them. "Your tomato sauce has potential," he said at one point. "Might work as a base for my signature cioppino, with a few enhancements, of course." "The sauce was designed to stand on its own," I said, trying to stay calm. "Changing it too much defeats the purpose of featuring it at all." Ethan smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Millie, this is a 3-star restaurant, not a home kitchen. Everything gets refined here, elevated." By the time dinner ended, I knew exactly what he was doing. He planned to water down my work, use it as a stepping stone, and then take the spotlight. He wasn't interested in collaboration, he wanted control. As we stood to leave, he added one final dig. "Oh, Vivian wants us to do some media together, promote the partnership. She suggested joint interviews. I'm happy to take the lead, since you don't have much experience with that sort of thing." "I've done media before," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "Sure," he said lightly, "local blogs and morning shows. This is a bit more upscale. Trust me on this, Mill. I know how to speak to a luxury audience." I didn't respond. I just walked out, waited until I got to my car, and let out a long, frustrated sigh. Ethan was trying to erase everything I'd built, and paint himself as the star. When I got home, the mood shifted instantly. Gabriel was in the kitchen, surrounded by fresh ingredients, scribbling notes and testing dishes for his new seasonal menu. His whole energy was calm and creative, focused without being self-absorbed. Just seeing him reminded me why I was here, and how far I'd come. He looked up and smiled. How was dinner? I shook my head, dropping my bag on the counter. Exactly what I expected. Ethan is still. Ethan. Gabriel wiped his hands on a dish towel and pulled me into a hug. I'm sorry, love. So, what's your next move? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. I checked it, and froze. It was an email from Vivian. Millie. I hope your meeting with Ethan was productive. Before we move forward, I'd like to discuss some confidential concerns regarding the executive chef position at the Artisan. Are you available for breakfast tomorrow? Regards, Vivian. I showed the message to Gabriel. He read it and raised an eyebrow. Well, he said, maybe it's not entirely unexpected. What do you mean? I asked. Vivian Hargrove has a reputation, he said. She knows how to spot talent, and how to remove obstacles. The question is, which category has she put you in? He paused. And which one does Ethan fall into? I didn't say anything right away, but I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't over.